Welcome to Discussions with the Writer Fred right here at Black Video Network in hot, yes, it's still hot, San Antonio, Texas.
Yes,
but it's not as hot as it's been. At least we're not doing triple-digit temperatures now. It's only 95, 96. So welcome again to Discussion with the Writer Fred. I have with me today one of my friends, associates, and sometimes we agree and sometimes we disagree. This is going to be a time, hopefully, when we agree and disagree. Mr. Chris Dawkins. Welcome, Chris, to Discussion with the Writer Fred.
Thank you so much. When I first moved to San Antonio, you know what I asked him?
What?
It was 100 degrees. I said, who's the mayor of this town, Satan?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Chris has been a community activist not only here in San Antonio, but also back in Columbus, Ohio, where at one time he ran for mayor. And he has been active here, especially dealing with economic issues. And that's what we're going to discuss today is what is wrong in our communities that we can't get it together and build a viable economic community like they did in 1921. Well, even before 1921, it started in 1906 in Tulsa, Oklahoma on Greenwood, which became known as Black Wall Street. And so, Chris, I was reading your paper here that you're going to have published in our newspaper here, and you said, when are black people going to get their shiggity together? Right. You want to elaborate on that for our viewers?
We've asked this question. This is a question that's been around in the community for a long time. And it's not a question that's kind of like a rhetorical question. We've never expected anyone to really be able to answer that question, but it sure enough is a great question to start a conversation. When are black people in America going to get their shiggity together?
And so shiggity would be?
It's actually a term that is black language that is used as a substitute for SHIT.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we don't want to use that. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. So, but what you're talking about, I mean, that could be a lot of different areas.
Sure.
But I think today what we're talking about is economics.
Sure.
Business, and so what you point out is that we seem to have a problem trusting black business and going to white business.
Well, so it's even a little bit deeper than that. It's about trusting each other. First, yes.
Okay.
And I think that before we even get to business, but it translates into what are we going to do to make sure that we can trust each other? And then in trusting each other, if you have a business, then I'm going to support your business. But we can't even get to that point because we somewhat have a dislike of ourselves.
Okay, let's deal with that for a minute. Why? Why?
I think there's a number of reasons why, and you could force me to talk about the why, but I think more importantly is why is it taking us so long to try to figure out a reason, or not a reason, but a way to circumvent this, okay? We have gone through slavery, we've gone through Jim Crow, we've gone through a lot of things in America, and we know that things have been perpetrated against us. Give you all of that. But having said that, you know, there was a guy that was running for governor of Texas at one point, and I remember over at the AME church on 410, and he said, you blacks have been in America too long to still be having the same problems that you're having. And to a certain degree, I think it's kind of right in what he was saying, but at the same time, I believe that we've got to do whatever we need to do to figure these things out.
Well, you know, that's kind of misleading. We've been in America too long to not have to figure these things out. Do you realize that our existence in this country has been longer as slaves than as free folks? So that we haven't even caught up with that yet. So it's misleading because, yeah, we're in this country, but hell, we were slaves. We weren't able to economically do anything. And then after that, you have the whole Jim Crow period, which I say goes from 1865 up to the Civil Rights Bill 1964. So you have another 100 years. So from 1964 till today, it's not even 100 years that we have been, what you would say, free, totally free to do what we want to do. Because, you know, in the South you had Jim Crow and you couldn't do what you wanted to do. So I think that's kind of misleading.
And I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with anything that you're saying. But what I do ask is it possible, which I think it is, that we could change the tide and that there can be a few of us who are like-minded who can work together to make some things happen? You and I have talked about this before in very much the same way as they did in Greenwood. I believe that the same thing can exist. But at the same time, psychologically, black folks are talking about, well, you know, they bombed us out in Greenwood. We tried to come together there. We tried to do this, tried to do every particular stance that we've made, we have met with opposition. The question is do we stop trying to do for ourselves even though we face those oppositions? And let me say this. We've always gone to politicians to ask them to solve our problem. And basically what I'm asking or advocating for is for us to stop asking for permission from politicians and for us to take those like-minded people that we have, however we do it, come together and be able to have a front of people that are all on the same page so that we can advance our people at least one step. And right now,
well, that goes back to what I asked you about earlier, and for some reason you didn't want to, I don't think, deal with it. Why is it that we can't come together? What happened to us as a people? What happened to us that we can't? Let's take, and in your work you talk about Asian Americans, Chinese, Japanese. They stay together, and they believe in each other.
Right.
And they do things for each other. What happened to us that we can't do that?
Well, first of all, I think psychologically there is a problem that has existed in the black community that's very, very deep down, and only a psychologist could probably tell you, that we have some problems with ourselves that's been embedded into us that we can't seem to shake. However, there have been some people who've been able to do very limited things when they come together as a group. But when you ask the question as to why it hasn't happened, I believe that psychological issue comes up. I believe the masters who taught us not to trust the house Negro, you know, and the different things that were these things were embedded in us. But I believe that now is a time that we've got to really turn the page. We cannot continue to blame white man, which I'm not saying he's not to blame, but I'm saying we've got to decide that we're going to take this under our own control and we're going to do that. The problem is who is going to be those people to do that.
Okay. We're going to take a break here, but when we come back, I want to ask you, where do we start to do that? Okay. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back with you with discussions with the writer friend, with my special guest, Chris Dawkins.
What a way to end your summer. Sit back and relax in First Class, Sunday, August 28th at the Evo Entertainment Center. The last Sunday, movie and day party. We know what you've been waiting for.
It's about damn time.
About damn time. Come in from the heat and relax with us. Don't walk to the event, run. It's time to take a break from the routine and enjoy yourself. Come on in and let the
Sunshine on me.
sunshine on me. The last Sunday, movie and day party. 2021 is complete. Good or bad, you made it through. The year of many firsts. It will not be easily forgotten. The Black Book Yearbook will help you capsule the year that was 2021. Own your part of history. Get your yearbook today at blacksinsanantonio.com. For the latest news and community activities, visit our companion site, blackvideonews.com, celebrating over 10 years of documenting the community.
My Shiro doesn't always wear a cape, but she always has time for a hug, a smile, for going the extra mile. My Shiro stretches every dollar, puts in long hours, puts others first. But now it's your time, Mom. When you're ready to retire, we want you to be able to enjoy it. It's time to start saving now. A free 3-minute online chat can give you the personalized tips you need to start boosting your retirement savings today. Visit aceyourretirement.org/Shiro.
Welcome back to Discussions with the Writer Fred with my special guest today, Chris Dawkins. And so let's get right back into it, Chris. When we took the break, I said we'd come back and talk about, you said we have to get started. In other words, we're at the beginning, right?
Right.
We're at the very beginning. Even though there have been great examples of success, and I think the most obvious one is Black Wall Street and from 1906 to 1921. So where do we start? You want to address that?
Well, I think we start by understanding that we've made some individual accomplishments that have been great. I think the things that we've done in mostly a number of industries, let's not even talk about entertainment from the standpoint of movies and music and so forth. Let's leave that out because we know we really kind of dominate that industry. But when you talk about the Ken Chenaults, who've been president of American Express, when you talk about Ken Frazier, who's been president of Merck, when you talk about this new Tharshonda Duckett Brown out of Houston, who's now the president of TIAFF.
But how does that help us? I mean,
Because I think once you take those people and what they have done, and you begin to recognize that what they have done, and know that it's only been from an individual standpoint, we now have to say, what can we do collectively? The only collective group that we have right now that is succeeding, to me, is the Nation of Islam.
Okay.
The Nation of Islam is succeeding. They have their own blueprint. They're dealing with their own people. They have tried to allow others to come into what it is that they're doing without having to become a Muslim. But we have been so indoctrinated against self that we are afraid to even associate ourselves with a Muslim.
Indoctrinated against self. You want to just explain that a little more?
It comes back to what we talked about in the first segment. When we don't like self, when we've had white masters and different people have told us not to like each other and not to like ourselves or pitting ourselves against each other, those are the things that begin to happen. And I think those are the same things that are happening with Mr. Louis Farrakhan and the NOI. People are saying, and Jews are beginning to say, well, we don't want you to like them.
Okay.
Somebody can not like you, Fred, but that has nothing to do with me. I'm not going to not like you because somebody else doesn't like you.
So, but can you expand a little more on the Nation of Islam?
Sure.
How they've been successful?
I
I think you believe they've been successful, right?
I definitely believe that they've been successful. They've been successful in their own little cocoon. They have their own farms. They're taking our downtrodden, going into the prisons, and they are converting those people that we have basically thrown away and made those people good people. They've made them, when they talk about rehabilitation, I don't think the prison system has rehabilitated those people, but I do believe that the Nation of Islam has come along and those people that are in prison and reestablished those people.
And how do they do that?
First of all, I think they've given them cover, first of all. When you go to prison, unfortunately, there's a lot of fights and a lot of things that's going on, and you got to decide you're going to be Billy Bob's girlfriend or you're going to be with the Muslims, okay? And you got a choice, okay? You can be the butt buddy or you can be the Muslim. And a lot of times, if I got that choice, I'm going to be the Muslim.
Well, I think doesn't go a little deeper than that. I'm thinking about Spike Lee's Malcolm X,
Okay.
and also the book Malcolm X.
Okay.
They reached him. He was emulating, as a lot of blacks do, whites.
Sure.
With the conked hair
Sure.
and all that.
Sure.
And they in prison taught him he was better than that.
Sure,
They taught him to love being black.
sure.
And that's the first step you have to take. Isn't that correct?
Yes, I agree. And you know what's so amazing about Muslims? I think, and when I say Muslims, let me make sure that
Make a distinction.
yeah, make the distinction. I'm not talking about Orthodox Muslims. I'm talking about the Nation of Islam Muslims. They seem to know the Bible better than the Christians know the Bible, which I find astonishing.
But how are they making this economic? They're a little cocoon.
Yes.
Within that little cocoon, they have their farms and they
They have their newspaper,
Yeah, the
so
newspaper.
communication. They've got, I think, a little bit of a where they can. I just saw a video, a rap video by them, which was incredible. That I thought was very good. So you got Minister Farrakhan, who's doing stuff with Snoop Dogg, who's doing stuff, of course, with Muhammad Ali. So they're bringing in people who are both Muslim and who are not Muslim. And they're saying, hey, we've got a better way. I've even heard that Kool and the Gang and the OJs and different people, you know, they may not have changed their name, but they have followed what the Nation of Islam has done. It's been the masses of us who don't want to really recognize them and want to go along with what other people outside have told us, to me, which is no different than what was told to us when we were on the farm as a slave, to say to us, you can't like this guy because we don't like him. And I say BS.
Well, how do they go beyond their little cocoon and reach out to blacks outside their cocoon and make it work for them also?
Well, first of all, I think it does take a little bit of both. But I will say that there's been more of them outreaching than it has been for Christians to reach into them. And especially as it relates here in San Antonio. When you look at Austin, when you look at Dallas, and when you look at Houston, they have a much more accommodating of the Nation of Islam than we have seen in San Antonio.
Well, you know, it's interesting because their whole movement is based on a religion. That's the connection, the Muslim religion. We are a country of blacks that are tied in to the Christian religion.
True.
Why haven't the black ministers been able to do what the Nation of Islam has done for their people? Why haven't the black ministers done that for the larger black population?
Only my opinion. Only because I believe that that's what those black ministers wanted to do. They want to keep you from Farrakhan because they know he is one hell of a speaker, so they don't want to have their people exposed to them. They think he's going to steal their people, which I don't think is the case. That's not going to be. Number two is that they want you bringing everything to the Christian church minister so he can have his house and he can have his Cadillac. And the things that we were taught in the Bible was, you know, wait until we die to have our milk and honey.
In heaven.
In heaven. But the white man, he's having his heaven right now.
So what I hear you saying then is the ministers in the Christian religion have failed us in terms of building up that independent economic community.
No question.
They build up their $1 million churches,
Right.
but it stays right in their pocket.
It stays right in their pocket. I mean, there have been exceptions, like you look at Kirby John Caldwell over in Houston and the housing.
What has he done?
Well, he's got the biggest housing project in the country.
But that's not building an economic
He's taken
independence.
a shopping center, the parishioners of his church, they've got insurance companies, they got lawyers, they've got all kind of
Who
stuff.
owns all this? The church?
No, individuals.
So
He's given-
is he
he's
acting
gi-
like a Black Wall Street?
Yeah,
Or
he's
giving
giving
out
them like an
loans?
incubator. The shopping center was given to him from Enron. So when the shopping center was given to him from Enron, then he took and put his church in the shopping center, and he also allowed those other small businesses around him to support the church, whether they were a printing company, whether they were a lawyer, whether they were finance, whatever it was. He had all of those businesses that were not only supporting the church, but people around in the community.
But bottom line, it came from Enron.
It was a gift, yeah.
From Enron,
Free, yeah.
that are white.
Yes.
So it wasn't anything that black people built themselves. He got it from the white folks.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Okay. We're going to come back in just a few minutes. We're going to take another break here with discussions with the writer Fred right here at Black Video Network in hot San Antonio, Texas. I'll be right back with my guests.
You know you missed it. It's back. The all-white martini party, Saturday, August 20th at the Henry's Convention Center. Mask, wear them if you got them. That means they're optional. Come enjoy another night of fun, music, and dancing. Voted #1 event of the year. Saturday, August 20th at the Henry's Convention Center in beautiful downtown San Antonio. Now it's time to get your groove back for one night only for the grown and sexy. It's the all-white martini party, the restart. Let go.
Veterans, when you're struggling, soon becomes later, becomes someday, becomes when. Don't wait. Reach out.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Hello, this is Cornell with Frost Bank.
Hi there, this is Terry with Frost.
Good evening, this is Franklin. This is Robert with Frost.
Hello, this is Rosemary with Frost Bank.
Nothing to do this week? Don't miss another event. Go to blacksinsanantonio.com for our event calendar. The home of the largest business directory in San Antonio with an African American focus. Sign up today for our weekly e-blast and text message alerts. Help us make this a better community. Connect, empower, grow.
Welcome back to Discussions with the writer Fred in a very heated discussion with Chris Dawkins. Yeah, I never use the word argument because I used to tell my students, you don't want to argue, and you argue when you attack the other person's position and say, oh, that's a dumb thing to say. Now because you're going to say, no, I'm not dumb, you're dumb.
Right.
Now you're into an argument. So we're having a discussion. So
I love it.
It's necessary.
It is necessary.
Yeah, it really is necessary. And it would be, if discussions with the writer Fred, especially this segment, could reach thousands and thousands of our people out there, they'd get a better understanding of what's happening and what we need. Because you really do know that well. You know the economics well. But in your statement you said, the comments are, you can't be successful catering to blacks only. Which I think what you're saying there, if you have a black business, you just can't depend on black folks?
If you look at that statement, you kind of sound like a white reporter now, but...
Oh, me?
Yes.
Program over. I'm out of here.
Because you've taken it out of context.
Okay.
What I said is that blacks will say that against each other.
Right.
And after that comment, I say it's hogwash.
Okay.
Okay, it's hogwash. Because I do believe that, again, if you look at the Black Wall Street, if you look at some of the things that we did where we were catering for and to ourselves, okay, we were very successful. But you hear other black people to say, well, you can't open up a shop and have it in the black community and expect to be successful. And I say, well, why not? I'm saying, why not?
Well, I think one of the reasons is because we don't support each other.
Well, that's what my whole article was about.
If you're selling cold water on Commerce Street and you're selling cold water over on Fredericksburg, black folks will go to cold water on Fredericksburg.
Right.
That's
right.
all psychological.
Right, all
isn't it?
psychological. And that's the whole point of what I wrote, is to say it needs to change. And we need to stop doing that with each other.
But we can't get beyond that point. How do we change? What do we have to do to change those attitudes? Is it so entrenched into us now, after hundreds and hundreds of years
Yes.
of being taught white folks are smarter, white folks look better, white folks, everything good is about white folks, everything bad is about black folks. In fact, if you take those two words, why can't we change the definition? We don't have to accept their definition of black.
I agree.
But we do.
I agree. Because you got people like Herschel Walker in the world.
And so you want to...
I'm just saying...
How about Tim Scott?
Got people like Tim Scott. Tim Scott, Herschel Walker, put them all in the same boat, same thing to me. And I believe that that's why when you've got people who are saying those things that we should not be like the other black folks, or people come to you and say, well, you don't speak like a black person, or you don't do this. Look, we have got to make sure that we support each other.
Well, okay, let me go there, to Herschel Walker.
Okay.
If Herschel Walker says, support me, I'm black, what's any different than Warnock saying, support me, I'm black?
Those two statements in themselves are right and correct.
Okay.
Okay?
What makes the difference?
When you look at Herschel Walker's background, and when you look at him as a politician, when you look at what he is able to give to those citizens of Georgia versus what Warnock is able to do, and you put those two together, look, vote your interest. Okay, I believe we need Republicans as well as we need Democrats. Now, my daddy would say, you know, the best Republican is a dead Republican. But I believe that in this day and climate, what it is that we need is we need Republicans who are good Republicans. And what I mean by that...
Is there such an animal?
I think there is. I think not today. Not today. But John McCain, when they were talking, and he was running against Obama, and they were talking about Obama wasn't from America, and John McCain shut him down and said, that's not it. I'm not going to allow you to talk about that.
Right.
Those are the things that we need.
In the Republican Party.
In the Republican Party. So I don't have a problem with finding some black folks who are Republicans. I have problems with black folks who are Republicans who don't speak out against the ineptness of what the Republicans are doing, that I have a problem with.
Okay.
And that's where I think ineptness, when it comes to Herschel Walker, is what I see. And I'm sorry to get off on that tangent.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. Well, can Herschel Walker argue that I am as representative of being black as Warnock is?
No. And I don't think he can, because, first of all, where has he been? I haven't seen this guy do anything. He hasn't been involved in any kind of civic politics that I know of. The only thing I know he's done has been a job. I don't want to say things about the way he talks, but I mean, he made a question about Jesus, whether Jesus was, what do you call him? Oh, help me.
I didn't catch that.
He called Jesus a split personality because he was Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. He said so there had to be something wrong with Jesus. You know, a guy who makes statements like that, he cannot be and want the votes of the people. And we need better representation. I don't even think Trump and the Republican Party should have put him in the front and asked for the vote.
Yeah. So let's get back to economics. We have a little time left, so let's talk about San Antonio.
Okay.
How are we doing here in terms of what you want to see happen?
I think San Antonio has a long way to go. I think we really need to circle the wagons and do what I'm talking about in this article. And this article is saying that we need to come together. There are a lot of things that we can do to come together. We need economic development. We need, as some people have talked about, the Black Bank, the different things like that. We've got outside corporations that I think that would be willing to help us, but there's nobody that will help us until we learn to rely on self and be able to help self and want to advance self. So as far as San Antonio is concerned, I think we've got the tools that we need to do the things that we need to do, but we don't have the togetherness to be able to make those things happen.
How important is politics to the economic growth?
If you had asked me that probably a week or so ago, I probably would have said very important. Right now, I'm saying to black folks, forget about politics.
You are?
Yeah, I'm saying we need to concentrate more stuff on ourselves.
Wait, look, you're not saying don't vote.
No, I'm not saying don't vote.
Okay.
I'm not saying don't vote, but I'm saying as we have I'm saying we've got to take a step back, work on ourselves, bring ourselves together, and take that togetherness and go to the politicians and say, this is what we want.
Do you see that happening at all in our community?
Not
Are we
yet.
coming together?
Not yet. Not yet, but that's what we've got to do in every community to be able to move forward.
Can you identify any potential leaders here to get that done?
Yes, but I would not want to say it at this particular point. I think there are a number of people that want to do that, but the problem, and I would not at this particular point put that on a preacher, okay? I'm sick right now of using ministers as somebody to be our savior. I'm saying we need somebody who's either a community activist or we need somebody who's in business to be able to help us. And we need to tell the churches what we expect for them to do in order to support us as well. That's what I call economic power. And then at that point, we go back to the politicians and say, this is what we want.
Well, measure economic power against Christian power, and I don't think we're in the same category. The ministers are in such control. There's nothing you can do to go to tell them to do such and such. Now, unfortunately, you say we can't find that kind of leadership in the church, and I agree with you because we have how many churches in San Antonio that are black?
Oodles.
And just think what we could do if we had one church and the money was used like a Wall Street to build businesses, not for the benefit of the preacher, not so he can live up there in wherever
Bernie
or some of the nicer areas where he drives down in his BMW.
Don't even live in the community.
To the community. I was in the barbershop one day, and honest to goodness, these men were in there arguing about whose minister has the nicest car.
Total nonsense.
Total nonsense.
And that's the type of stuff that we get into. And that's what we have got to change. We have got to be able to change that. I do want to say one thing real quick. When you talk about the ministers and talk about the Christian versus economic, I think really the ministers are full of themselves and are not as powerful as we give them credit for being.
Okay.
There's been at least 2 elections here locally in San Antonio where they've backed someone who has not won.
Okay.
Okay? So I don't think that those ministers have as much power as we think that they have or that they want to think that they have. And we have got to really put ourselves in a position to bring commerce and business people and community activists against the preachers, if that's the way they want to be, because we need those people. And if they don't want to be with us, they don't have to be with us.
It shouldn't be that way.
It shouldn't be that way.
It shouldn't be that way.
Yeah.
So we're getting ready to close. So
okay.
Any final comments to our viewers?
Yes. I would like to say that I believe that there's a lot of hope for us as black folks. And if we come together, I think there are a lot of things that we can accomplish. How we come together, I'm not really sure. But it really takes one person putting a step forward and saying, I want to be with you. And sometimes you may not agree with me. You may not agree with Fred. But when that happens, understand that we can agree to disagree, but we still need to be together as people and as black folks. And I think if we do that, we can begin to braille some forces and come together and do the things that we need to do.
Thank you, Christopher, for being my guest today. And this has been Discussions with the Writer Fred, telling our story. Really, this time, telling our story.
And I'm gonna beat Fred up after this.